Sam Bankman-Fried is under a lot of legal scrutiny right now. The disgraced CEO of FTX stepped down from the position on November 11 and now faces investigations by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice. The SEC and federal prosecutors are investigating whether FTX's transfer of customer money to Alameda was illegal. A run on deposits last month revealed an estimated $10 billion hole in the exchange's accounts, leading to one of the biggest cryptocurrency downfalls. On November 7, SBF tweeted, "Assets are fine. FTX has enough to cover all client holdings. We don't invest client assets, even in treasuries." But it appears that wasn't true. That tweet has already been deleted, and on November 10, SBF publicly apologized on Twitter saying, "I fucked up and should have done better. I also should have been communicating more very recently." He pointed to a poor internal labeling of bank-related accounts as one reason why FTX didn't have the liquidity to return money to clients. All the prerequisites are in place for Justice Department prosecutors to file a case under Section 1343 of federal criminal law, which prohibits various types of fraud that are carried out using electronic devices. And on December 13, SBF was arrested with unspecified criminal charges. He was detained by Bahamian officials after the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney shared a sealed indictment with them, paving the way for his extradition and likely U.S. trial for the former crypto billionaire at the center of the collapse of the FTX crypto exchange. Additionally, US cryptocurrency investors have filed lawsuits against a number of celebrities who marketed his exchange, alleging that they engaged in deceptive practices by promoting FTX yield-bearing digital currency accounts. The boy of crypto, who at one point had a net worth of $26.5 billion, now only has $100,000 remaining in his bank account. If the federal government presses charges of wire fraud or bank fraud, SBF could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of supervised release. Is FTX's downfall an accident or a crime? Sam Bankman-Fried is the CEO of FTX, a cryptocurrency trading platform that offers a wide range of products, including futures, options, and leveraged tokens. The platform allowed users to trade cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other altcoins. He was raised in a home in the heart of the Stanford campus and was the son of not one but two Stanford professors. SBF's parents are well-recognized professors at Stanford Law School. Joe Bankman, his father, authored two significant casebooks on federal tax law. Barbara Fried, his mother, is a distinguished professor who specializes in moral philosophy and the law. Joe Bankman was an altruist, which influenced his son heavily. When SBF was 21 years old, he began working on Wall Street. Inspired by effective altruism pioneer and Oxford philosopher Will MacAskill, SBF joined the trading company Jane Street after graduating, where he could earn significantly more money with the intent of eventually giving it away. Effective altruism basically espouses the idea that the best way to do the most good for the future is to become as rich and powerful as possible right now. SBF claims to have donated half of his salary and distributed it to charities and other causes. He acquired his wealth by engaging in cryptocurrency arbitrage, which involves buying coins at a discount on one exchange, then swiftly selling them at a higher price on another. His trading company Alameda Research was established in 2017 after he persuaded a handful of his effective altruist pals to participate in this arbitrage concept. As a quant trading firm, Alameda Research was designed to find investment opportunities by analyzing price differences between cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies in a trading strategy known as arbitrage. Exploiting the spreads between prices in different markets has long been a trading strategy in crypto. By 2019, it was profitable enough for SBF to start his own cryptocurrency exchange, FTX. Investors were drawn to FTX because it permitted riskier transactions than other exchanges. Users could place highly leveraged bets up until 2021 when it scaled back the leverage it provided them. SBF became known as a brilliant disruptor in the crypto space. SBF was also a big supporter of politics. He gave nearly $40 million to different candidates, including a $1 million contribution to Beto O'Rourke's unsuccessful bid for Texas governor. He was also one of the biggest individual donors to Joe Biden in 2020 and the sixth largest individual donor overall for the 2022 midterm cycle. SBF spent millions supporting the congressional campaign of effective altruist Carrick Flynn, whose platform prioritized pandemic prevention. One of SBF's main goals was to increase political investment in pandemic preparedness. SBF's former co-worker even implied that he might someday have his own political aspiration. And just earlier this year, SBF suggested that if it meant defeating Trump in 2024, he would spend up to $1 billion on politics. SBF was on endless magazine covers, and not when on the cover, he was gracing the inside of the pages. Forbes, Fortune, New York Magazine, Time, you name it, and he's probably there. SBF might be best described as, in crypto circles, he is famous for sleeping 4 hours a night on a beanbag chair next to his desk, multitasking on 6 screens, and, most importantly, being a skilled trader who banked 10% daily gains on million-dollar trades. He became the face of crypto, with a net worth of $24 billion. In 2021, he was number 2 on the crypto rich list. In 2022, he was number 41 in Forbes 400 and number 60 in billionaires. More than being a billionaire, SBF was most proud of being a philanthropist, joining Bill Gates and Warren Buffett in pledging to give away at least 50% of his wealth. His philanthropic foundation, the FTX Foundation, has donated over $190 million. Additionally, he also established the FTX Future Fund, whose initial objectives included creating an early detection system for unidentified infections and creating greatly enhanced personal protective equipment with the intention of making the lives of immunocompromised individuals simple. However, every member of the Future Fund team left their positions following the company's demise and bankruptcy, including the philosopher William MacAskill, who is the public face of the long-termism movement and a longtime friend and mentor of Bankman-Fried. MacAskill had joined the company to assist in allocating FTX's pretty sizable war chest to long-termism causes. In a tweet he said, "If there was deception and misuse of funds, I am outraged, and I don't know which emotion is stronger, my utter rage at Sam and others for causing such harm to so many people, or my sadness and self-hatred for falling for this deception." The problems for FTX began after a CoinDesk article on November 2nd questioned Alameda's balance sheet by claiming that a significant portion of it was made up of FTT. FTX had been the 4th largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world prior to its spectacular collapse. The corporation issued FTT, which was essentially a share in FTX, and promised to repurchase it with a fraction of its revenues. But according to documents published by the news outlet CoinDesk, the group's hedge fund Alameda was utilizing FTT to make risky loans, effectively trading with company stock. Without the consent of those customers, the corporation gave a $10 billion loan to SBF's trading company, Alameda Research, using it to make trades on other cryptocurrencies. This obviously didn't work out. Customers' cryptocurrencies, supposedly worth at least $1 billion, just vanished, and hackers are said to have made off with about $500 million more. Changpeng Zhao, popularly known as CZ, the CEO of competitor exchange Binance, tweeted on November 6 that he intended to sell out Binance's stockpile of FTT due to recent revelations that have come to light. Referring to the CoinDesk article about FTX and Alameda's blurred money, he compared FTX's predicament to the Terra USD and Luna crashes earlier in the year, which destroyed the cryptocurrency market and cost investors billions of dollars. However, such actions are often kept under wraps. CZ's revelation caused FTT's value to drop sharply the following day, as concerns emerged that FTX lacked the liquidity required to support transactions and maintain its stability. Customers were scrambling to withdraw their funds. Since then, FTX has struggled to keep afloat as a result of customers wanting to withdraw money due to concerns over the dangerous financial arrangement between FTX and Alameda. SBF said in a tweet on November 10 that the platform saw $5 billion in withdrawals on November 6. In order to save the collapsing exchange and avoid a larger market catastrophe, Binance and FTX reached an agreement on November 8. Binance will buy the non-US branch of the exchange. On November 9, however, CZ said through Twitter that Binance had completed its corporate due diligence and would not be acquiring FTX. CZ said on Twitter that the news stories about mishandled customer funds and alleged US agency investigations influenced his choice. In a mysterious tweet that ended with the words, "Well played, you won," Bankman-Fried seemed to be referring to CZ's impact on FTX's decline. As chances of a rescue for the cryptocurrency exchange fade after rival Binance backed out of a plan to save the business, FTX on November 10 banned the onboarding of new clients as well as withdrawals until further notice. On November 11, FTX filed voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings for FTX, FTX.US, and Alameda. Following an investigation, FTX's legal and financial teams discovered that Bankman-Fried had implemented what's called a backdoor to the company's bespoke custom-made software bookkeeping system. By using a backdoor, SBF was able to issue orders that may change the company's financial records without informing anyone else, including outside auditors. This arrangement meant that the transfer of the $10 billion to Alameda didn't raise any internal compliance or accounting concerns at FTX, but SBF denied all of this. Among the many assets uncovered in the bankruptcy of FTX is the ownership of a US bank. It made an $11.5 million investment in Farmington State Bank's parent company, which up until this year had just 3 employees and 1 branch. Controlling a US bank could have allowed Alameda and FTX to engage in various activities, both legal and illegal. Democratic US Representative Maxine Waters from California was one of many who paid attention to SBF's non-stop talking in interviews and tweets. On December 2nd, the head of the House Financial Services Committee requested his testimony for the December 13 committee hearing on the FTX scandal. SBF agreed with saying, "I still do not have access to much of my data, professional or personal. So there is a limit to what I will be able to say, and I won't be as helpful as I'd like. But as the committee still thinks it would be useful, I'm willing to testify on the 13th. The second participant who will be present at the House committee hearing is John Ray III, the new CEO of FTX. Ray, who oversaw one of the largest bankruptcy cases following the collapse of Enron, is tasked with carrying out a difficult reorganization in effort to recover some money, customers and investors. However, after the arrest of SBF, his representatives said that he won't be able to attend the hearing anymore. Reports also show that SBF secretly funded a crypto news site. The controversial SBF's cryptocurrency trading firm has been secretly funding The Block, a media outlet that claims to cover crypto news independently for more than a year. According to sources aware of the transactions, one $16 million round of money from Alameda was used in part to support Block CEO Michael McCaffrey's acquisition of an apartment in the Bahamas. The former CEO admitted that client funds weren't segregated as promised in a conversation with YouTuber CoffeeZilla.
That means that there is no separation of funds. If there's fungibility between two different buckets of cash, there are no buckets. It's just one bucket. Everyone's taking out of the bucket, which means substantially anyone who had your terms of service with digital assets wasn't actually subject to that terms of service. They were subject to the same terms of service of your margin trading, right? Which is your more risky product. So you subjected everyone to the higher risk product because fundamentally, when it came down to it, you're saying there's fungibility. It's $1 here, $1 there. Everyone can take out $1 as fast as they want. Don't you see that as like defrauding your customers, the people who trusted you to just say, hey, this is not going to go anywhere except for we're not investing your assets?
YouTuber CoffeeZilla claims in a Twitter Spaces interview that he convinced disgraced FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried to confess to fraud.
I tricked Sam Bankman-Fried into a third interview with me, and this time he may have admitted to fraud.
He inquired as to whether FTX treating client assets just on the regular asset side different from the margin trading side, which suggests keeping the funds of customers who signed on for various terms of service and risk levels separate in the event of a crash. The founder of FTX said they processed $5 to $6 billion of withdrawals over the few days during the crash, with some billions remaining in the company's estate. However, because of the bankruptcy, customers are unable to cash out on falling currency. Despite the fact that clients did sign up for various risk levels, he claimed that all clients received the same quality of service, regardless of the kind of transactions they carried out on FTX. I processed withdrawals as we normally do until we couldn't anymore, and that's when we shut them off. There was a big liquidity hole. If you want to judge that and think we should have been spending those days frantically trying to code up a new withdrawal process, I disagree with you. The US cryptocurrency market has significantly been impacted by FTX's problems. On November 9 and November 14, Bitcoin's price fell under 16,000. Between November 8 and November 15, exchanges removed $3.2 billion in Bitcoin. On November 9, Ethereum's price fell under $1,100. On November 9, as a result of CoinDesk's report that Alameda had a sizable amount of Solana, its price fell below $13. On November 10, Tether briefly depegged from the US dollar by 3%. Thanks for watching. I'm James. I create short documentary videos every week. I'd be incredibly grateful if you considered subscribing for future videos. Thanks again and see you on the next one.